Hey YouTube, this is Roblox1 here, and I'm here to do a discussion video on Sansa Stark. Um, if you've watched my latest Game of Thrones video, I mentioned quite a lot about something which happened to Sansa Stark, and it sort of led into this kind of discussion about about whether Sansa Stark is a strong character or whether she is a victim. Keep in mind, I have not read any of the books. I've only watched the TV show, and I'm basing a lot of this on the TV show. Also, I should warn people that this will contain spoilers, and it will contain the ideas of rape and forced, and forced sexual advances, and it will basically also I'll be talking a lot about abusive relationships. So if this is not something you want to be a part of, then I will completely understand if you decide to click away now. Because I know that stuff can be hard, and I've known people who have seen it, and it's, yeah. So, recently, throughout the first 5 seasons, Sansa has demonstrated this sort of victimized kind of character, and Sansa Stark as a character has gone through a considerable has gone through a lot in the last 5 seasons. And she's been married 3 times, 2 of which have, her first marriage ended in... Actually, were they married? No. Her first engagement, sorry. I just remembered that marriage never went ahead. The first engagement ended with Joffrey's death. The second marriage ended with Tyrion in exile, and who knows what will happen with the third marriage. So, what's interesting about Sansa Stark is a lot of her storyline is about the ideas of abusive relationships, both mentally and physically. And Sansa has, in season 1, Sansa nearly was raped during that episode. She was forced to marry Tyrion in season 3, and she was, and she was indeed raped. That hasn't been confirmed because the actress did say that the character liked it. And a lot of that character is about abusive relationships. And it's interesting to see a character have these kind of relationships Harley Quinn in the DC comics is the poster child for abusive relationships. And whilst DC's gone in a new direction with Harley and making her into a stronger character, I don't think that's what they're doing with Sansa. Sansa just seems to be going through another cycle of abuse. And despite Littlefinger challenging her to fight back, against this abuse and become a strong woman, she really hasn't become a strong woman yet. We possibly might see that happen later down in the season. But frankly, I don't see the character becoming nearly as strong as Arya Stark, or Cersei Lannister. What makes those characters great, is because the kind of stories that are being told are really interesting. But with Sansa Stark, it's all about the abusive relationship. I think something you have to keep in mind is, with Sansa Stark, you have to look in the eyes of the past and sort of think, did this happen to women in this sort of time period? Were women oftentimes forced into these abusive relationships? But here's lies my problem is that I'm finding with the Sansa Stark character. I think the show isn't doing a good enough job at portraying Sansa as this, as a victim that we can sympathize with. Throughout the 5 seasons, the Sansa Stark story hasn't really interested me. And I think the only benefit that Sansa has had is because of the characters she's interacting with. Like characters like the Hound, characters like Littlefinger, characters like Joffrey, who is definitely, sort of this very interesting figure in his own right. But I feel like Sansa is just very naive and very weak. And she hasn't really become very sympathetic. I think we kind of go, oh, that's a horrible thing to happen to the character, and then, oh, look what Jon Snow is doing, look what Cersei's doing, And I feel like the Sansa Stark storyline hasn't really evolved beyond that. She hasn't really become a very strong character. I definitely think they need to either put that in or get rid of the character entirely. Because Sansa Stark needs to be a strong character in order for that character to work. Comparing her to another strong character who has suffered abuse is Harley Quinn. Now you could dispute that, but see, what works for Harley Quinn is that yes, she was in an abusive relationship, but she sort of became her own character and embraced her own sort of fate, as it were. And she sort of, yes, she was in an abusive relationship, but now she's moved away from that abusive relationship. And even when she was in an abusive relationship, she was still a very fascinating character. Whereas I do think the naivety of Sansa is holding that character back from being sympathetic and being a strong character. And I think normally I don't think people would have noticed. It's only because of this rape scene and that the initial backlash that has happened, which I'll explain in a minute. And I do think the interaction that she's had with Ramsay isn't nearly as fascinating as the kind of relationship that she had with Joffrey. Joffrey basically resembled the Mad King, whereas Ramsay is just cruel for the sake of cruelty. And his sense of cruelty is both physical, is more of tearing people down. Whereas, yes, you could argue Joffrey was the same, but Joffrey was basically had so much energy when he was on screen, but Ramsay doesn't. And in my last review, I actually said that Ramsay was actually more brutal than Joffrey was. And here's why. Ramsay as a character tore down this lord, tore down Reek, Theon Greyjoy, tore him down, and then basically psychologically, built him into this creature. And that takes a lot of doing. And in real life, that would be worse. Because psychologically, you can do so much damage psychologically than you can do taking, than just cruelty for the sake of cruelty. Cruelty with a purpose is so much more powerful than cruelty for the sake of cruelty. And I think that's what Ramsay's doing. But see, when he's on screen, Ramsay doesn't command a very powerful presence. He is a great actor and he's a great character, but he doesn't command quite that same command that Joffrey did. And getting this subject back onto Sansa kind of needs that because she's not a strong enough character to, she's not a strong enough character to really play out these scenes. Which does make me concerned about the Jean Grey role that the actress is going to play. But that's a different subject altogether. But yeah. Now, back onto that, the rape backlash. Reportedly, the actress was, said, and this is only reportedly, but reportedly the actress said that Sansa secretly enjoyed the rape. And this got me thinking. And this is where all that stuff about forced sex and abusive relationships is coming into a more of a serious discussion. I am a bit concerned that that was said, because it would mean that Sansa is more psychologically damaged than we first realised. And I think you can't create a sympathetic character out of that. You can't, because this character doesn't command the presence it needs to create this kind of interesting storytelling. I'm a bit concerned that Sansa is, that I'm a bit concerned that Sansa is sort of derailing off things. I feel like the actress shouldn't have said that she secretly enjoyed it. It's an interesting story, don't get me wrong, but rape is such a taboo subject that affects a lot of people. And I definitely think, in terms of the Sansa character, I definitely think it's a problem. And it is creating a circumstance where I feel like the Sansa character is derailing quite a lot. So that's my brief. That's all I wanted to say about this subject. I'm Robinax1 here, and I hope you enjoyed this topic video, and I shall see you all later for another video. Bye.